So, welcome to Braxton Jarratt, the CEO of Clearleap, at the very first interview in the IBE studio at Connected World IBC 2013. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Thank you for your time. I know it's very, very busy, and it is the first day of the show.
Yes,
so, how's it been so far?
It's been packed. We have a full schedule, meeting rooms and the demo areas, plus all the other things you want to see. So it's been incredible.
Okay.
It's hard. We weren't sure if 5 days was too long or too short, but it's definitely too short.
So this is your first time at IBC in the Connected World.
That's
right.
Correct. Yeah.
So you made an announcement. Clearleap from the States have entered into the European market. Tell me a little bit more for our viewers about Clearleap, what you do, what your value proposition is, and what you're doing here, particularly at the show this year.
Sure. Yeah, we started the company about 5 years ago with the singular focus of building software infrastructure to help premium television owners and service providers enable multi-screen to consumers. So our big bet 5 years ago was that mainstream TV was going to be on the internet. It seems obvious now in retrospect, but years ago it was still a big question. So we have the benefit of spending 4 or 5 years building core technology, a core platform that really accelerates and simplifies how you both build and grow multi-screen TV services.
Okay, and is that particularly coming from a broadcast content publishing perspective into multi-platform?
We sell to both programmers or content owners, broadcasters, and operators like telco, cable, and non-traditional OTT service providers. About 2/3 of our business is with programmers, content owners, broadcasters. So that's we tend to work a little bit more with them, but the core technologies are really work either way for either segment.
So Jarratt, let me ask you, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing broadcasters particularly? We're here at a broadcast show that obviously is focused around multi-platform content delivery.
Right.
But from a traditional broadcasting perspective at the IBC show, what are the key challenges that you think broadcasters are facing in deploying a fully immersive, interactive, multi-platform experience?
Yeah, that's the key question right now for everybody is what I've seen in Europe in particular is that many companies have launched one or two apps, either a PC experience and maybe a tablet experience. Some are more aggressive and have, maybe an Android and connected TV app or two. And what we call that is sort of multi-screen 1.0, where you kind of did your CEO or your president said, I want an iPad app and I want it as soon as I can. And so they built, silos of people and technology and just did what they had to do to get the job done. Now they're saying, this is my core business. It's not a side project. And as that's happening within, the organizations that we deal with, they're looking at the entire end-to-end infrastructure and saying, I really need a true multi-platform back end in order to really address all the different devices that are out there, all the different content formats, the huge explosion in usage and content deals and all those sorts of things. So we come in and really help people, in many cases, rebuild their infrastructure to truly scale and truly enable multi-screen.
So I've just come from one of the Connected World panels where we've been talking about the Internet of Everything and how that is affecting content consumption. One of the things that came up was cultural differences. Obviously, we all behave in different ways, and there are obvious cultural differences between different nations, etc. But coming in from the States to Europe, what would you see are the biggest differences between how broadcasters and content publishers are behaving here in terms of adapting to multiple platforms compared to what you've already achieved in the States?
Well, one thing I've seen is it's much more dynamic, and each country has its own competitive dynamic among our customers, and that's pretty exciting because in many cases there'll be a broadcaster who's maybe taking their own content plus aggregating content from their partners who are traditionally competitors. There may be a telco who's launched a new service, and then oftentimes there's a homegrown, local or regional over-the-top service as well. And so, and depending on the market, if there's high broadband penetration and lots of choices, it's incredibly dynamic in terms of how our customers are competing with each other. And I think it's driving a lot of awareness with the consumers as well. Obviously, Netflix coming into a region tends to bring a lot of attention to multi-screen, and that's oftentimes a driving point for adoption and usage, and that again is what we're seeing is our customers then react to that and are recognizing that it's going to be a very competitive environment for those consumer eyeballs and the attention that they provide and who they're paying their subscriptions to and so forth.
We're in 2013, September 2013 at the moment, and again, from a panel discussion that's just taken place in the theatre, a number or two of the vendors there were saying nobody switches on the TV anymore. You don't just come in and click and sit and watch. It's all about multi-screen.
Right.
Do you agree with that statement?
Well, I mean, I think that biggest screen in the home is still what people would prefer to see content on, and we've seen that in the numbers. While there's tremendous growth, new growth in multi-screen being, the non-TV viewing. There's still huge viewership and growth in the main big TV. What I think is different is people expect more out of the big TV now. It's not just like you said, it's not just coming in, sitting down and channel surfing. It's I want to seek out the program. So what I think people are wanting is either a more interactive experience on the television, or I think more commonly using the companion device to control the big screen. So that's what we're witnessing in Europe, and certainly we've seen in the States as well. So the big TV is not going away. People really love the high resolution, the really high quality picture. They do like sitting in their living room. It's just that they are not going to sit back and see whatever happens to be on channel 12 or whatever.
So what, in your view, defines a fully immersive interactive experience? It's words that are being used now in terms that are sort of the buzzwords of what's being said at a number of shows and in the press, etc. But what really defines what that is to you at Clearleap?
Well, I think one of the big things that I think gets lost in some of the noise about new features and interactivity is the fact that consumers are still confused oftentimes about what they can watch on what device. And I think at the very foundation of all these services, you have to have a really consistent set of content available on all screens, including the big one. And right now, that doesn't exist consistently. Now, obviously, Netflix is very consistent, and that's one of their selling points, is that wherever you go, you're going to get a consistent catalog, whatever device you're on. So I think that's step one, getting a really consistent catalog, so I, as a consumer, don't have to worry about, what am I allowed to watch on this device? Is it in my home, or is it outside of my home that I'm allowed to do this? So that's step one. I think the next one is fairly basic content discovery, search, recommendation, personalization. I know those are big buzzwords that everybody's talking about. I think some people
pure
are almost
navigation is important.
I mean, it's a problem. You have 10,000 and in growing numbers of assets, and you simply can't just search, and you can't just browse. I mean, that's those aren't sufficient when you're trying to be entertained, or you're going to spend hours just trying to find something to watch. So I think to some degree those solutions are being over-engineered. They're not necessarily consistent from device to device, and I think that's the biggest thing that the industry needs to get their heads around, a consistent catalog on every device, and then relatively straightforward, simple ways to navigate that catalog. That to me is still step 1 and 2, and it hasn't been achieved consistently yet in almost any market.
Do you think content should be different for multi-screen for other platforms
other
than the big one?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a good example, one of our customers is Food Network. So, they have a lot of shows that play well with you just kind of sitting there watching them in the living room, but obviously recipes and destinations and the restaurants that they're going to, you'd love to get more information about those. You don't want them on your TV, you want them on your mobile device. And so that's a really easy and obvious example, but I absolutely believe that you still want to tailor the content experience to the device. It's just that I think the core offering should be consistent from device to device.
So we've talked about the content and the consumer experience in consuming that content. From the other side, what do you think are the barriers in enabling a more multi-platform, multi-screen delivery of content? What does the industry still need to be considering to make that truly happen in a scale that is obvious rather than selective?
Yeah. Well, that's a big, that's a nice question for us, because that's a lot about what we do. Right now, because of that 1.0 version that most people have launched, they have people, technology, operations, even whole departments that are separate from each other to do each one of those functions that are really the same across each device. You need to get content in, you need to process it, you need to secure it, you need to deliver it, then you need to make it available to the consumers. That needs to happen consistently, scalably in the back end. And a lot of these companies, they're really good at acquiring content, engaging their consumer, marketing, branding, but they don't necessarily have the expertise in-house to do the entire end-to-end workflow, content management, distribution, and even think about devices. I mean, you have Netflix goes and says we have support of 400 different devices. Now, most of those are Android, but that's a lot of devices for somebody to deal with. In a world where it used to be 1 or 2 set-top boxes come out every year, and they're mostly the same. So now you have literally hundreds of different devices that you have to support. If somebody calls and says, I can't, get access to my content, you have to know how to answer that question.
Absolutely.
And that's, especially for broadcasters, that's a whole new ballgame. They're not used to dealing directly with the consumer at all, and certainly not on sort of tech support around, what works on my iPad or not.
Absolutely. So in terms of what's happening here at the show in the Connected World at IBC, what are you featuring on your stand as your debut into the connected world?
Well, we have a really interesting demonstration of our back end. It's always tough when you have infrastructure and back end. What do you show? But people really do want to know what are the functions of the system? What can I replace that I either already have or I'm considering from others? So we've actually built a really interactive map, essentially, of an end-to-end system that customers can go in and say, all right, I want to have a set-top box application on a connected TV. Click that, and it shows all the systems downstream that you have to put together from us or other vendors to enable that service. So it's a pretty neat way to interactively demonstrate what's typically a hard to demonstrate thing, the back-end systems that manage these devices.
And I think you've articulated that proposition particularly well, given, and can I say congratulations on being a finalist in the Connected World TV Awards.
Thank you. Have we won?
I couldn't possibly say. The team, there is a true team of judges, independent, who look at that. But you're going to the awards on Monday night, yes? So good luck.
Thank you.
But I think even to be a finalist in what's a very competitive and complex market there was a lot of entries for that this year. And being innovative, but also being able to articulate what you're doing in the way that you are, truly stood out. Hence your finalist position.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Very best of luck for Monday. And I think that, in terms of what you're doing, it sounds fantastic. I'd urge everybody here to go along and see what you're doing on your stand. Obviously, come to the awards and watch the space to see what happens on Monday. So
sounds good.
Best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us. All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.